Smasho here, and welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. We've got some filaments. We've got a small uptick in solar activity, likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections nearly 100%, an incoming coronal hole high-speed stream, and lots more to talk about today. Whew. And thanks for stargazing with us. Going back to basics here. This is the last 24 hours from SDO in 304 angstroms. Most of the activity there in the northern hemisphere. Huge filament looking like it's becoming increasingly unstable. In the southern hemisphere, right there. That filament might need a name. Should we call it Filament Fauci? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Here's your SDO intensity gram for yesterday plus today. Most of these sunspots remaining stable, although a little bit of growth in this one right here. We'll get to the names of those sunspots later. Einstein said, never memorize something you can look up. I tend to agree. Here's your colorized magnetogram. Give it a minute. There we go. And let's talk volcanoes and earthquakes. So, what volcanoes are erupting, you're wondering? Well, so am I. The list begins with Suwanosejima rather, producing a 6,000-foot ash plume. Flight level 060 over Suwanosejima. Semeru 3,000-foot ash plume, flight level 030 over Semeru. Dacono flight level 070, it's exploding. Please do not pole vault the caldera. Our finest days lie ahead. Don't pole vault the caldera, folks. Fuego in Guatemala exploding, flight level 150. It's a 15,000-foot plume of volcanic ash over Guatemala. 15,000-foot plume of volcanic ash over Ecuador, as well as Revenador explodes. Flight level 150, flight level 250 over Sabancaya. It's exploding. If you're going through hell, keep going. 24,000-foot ash plume over Peru from Sabancaya. We're going to get to earthquakes here in a moment. There is your 90-day bar graph, conveniently compiled by volcanodiscovery.com. And let's talk about the channel. If you haven't seen our community posts, perhaps check those out. If you haven't seen our community posts, we aren't surprised. Have you pressed like, subscribe, share? Have you pressed the notification bell? Well, if you haven't seen the community posts, perhaps check them out. We post things that are non-space weather related occasionally. Also, check us out on Twitter if you haven't done so. Maybe get a Twitter account, as our follower count hovers around 340 because reasons. One of the links you'll be able to find to click on Twitter is the link on our pinned post on our profile page there to ShoreMed, twitter.com/smashamash. If you're not familiar with ShoreMed, I think it's fantastic. It's the American Better Health Organization. It's an association membership, not insurance. It's a nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of life, the quality of the health of its members. You'll get doctors by phone, counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians, discounts on dental of 15 to 50%, discounts on vision, and so on. Lots more. Huge discounts on your prescriptions. Most pharmacies will accept your ShoreMed card that you'll receive in the mail with your membership. You can also look into some group insurance to help cover gaps such as the hospital indemnity insurance. Again, links on the homepage and below the video. To that, welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Help us out with clicks by visiting smashomash.com. Smashomash.com. The nexus of all of the facts that we cite. Yes, we are still in the process of composing a paper plausibly explaining the mechanism behind the solar sunspot cycle. Science, it's a rabbit hole where we often receive answers to questions not asked. You'll also find links to Hemp Lucid below the video and on the homepage. Save 40% via our link. Do some early Christmas shopping. Perhaps the Hemp Lucid products make great gifts. Need something inexpensive? Well, how about the water-based CBD tincture? How about Oh, I don't know. What about some lip balm? There is a product review video on our page as well. You'll see many product reviews, actually. So check out our playlists on the YouTube channel as well. Again, you'll find links below the video and on the homepage to our Hemp Lucid shop. So drop by. Save 40% site-wide as the Black Friday sale has already begun. You'll also find links to the Smasho merch shop. Now, I wear the merch myself. The Mensa product is the second best seller, and I'm currently wearing it. There's the hat. Mensa, make Earth not suck again. Today's featured product is, and these are in order of best selling, by the way, Forgive, Remember, and Hold Accountable. So, yeah, here's our bestseller. It contains words that shall not be mentioned because of the pathetic, putrid, and disgusting censorship by certain big tech organizations. You know who you are. HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, did not evaporate in the year 2020. But in any case, forgive, remember, and hold accountable, because holding a grudge is like ingesting poison and expecting the other person to die. However, we demand accountability for all of the fails of the past pushing 3 years. What about you? Have you noticed the problem exposing itself on all possible levels for the past pushing 3 years? Well, we certainly have. Let us know in the comments what you think the problems have been over the past about 3 years. Anyway, we invite you to forgive, remember, hold accountable, and create a conversation. Consider supporting the channel via a Smash Team membership at smashomash.com/SmashTeam if you'd like to see the content continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. A subscription at smashomash.com/SmashTeam is a great idea. Join at the gold or silver level. There's even a bronze level. And if you want to check it out, click on posts. You will see our publicly visible posts without even logging in at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. Also links to SureMed and Hemp Lucid and the Smasho merch and the forum and the homepage, all at the Smash Team site. Give Smash staff a raise by becoming a gold or silver member of the Smash Team, and thanks to our producers at the gold and silver level. Credit crawl coming soon to honor those gold and silver members. Largest quake of the past 24 was at 6.1, located way down south in the land of nobody, near the South Sandwich Islands, near the border between the Atlantic and Southern Oceans. That's where it occurred. Probably felt by like 4 people. Between 0 and 4 people probably felt that quake. It happened at 14:17 yesterday. Anyway, we're just going to scroll up the list here. Philippines saw a 5.0 also a little bit before that. About an hour and 10 minutes before that. Some quakes in Hawaii, as there's been some alert level raising at Mauna Loa. Again, visit our community posts. Perhaps follow Two Pineapples. Shout out to Two Pineapples. We also had a 5.1 at depth at Romania. There, a deep quake at 148.1 kilometers estimated depth. 5.1 at Romania. So things pretty calm here besides a couple 5 magnitude quakes and that 6.1 at the South Sandwich Islands region. And let's get back to space. So check out the fresh composite imagery we've got there. 171 plus 335 angstroms. It's only the most detailed imagery of the sun you'll find any place on the internet, and indeed the most detailed and comprehensive space weather in the known universe. Hey Elon, why don't you unshadow ban our Twitter page? Yes, I know. People think there's a lever that he can pull that's going to just mysteriously unshadow ban people. So that was a composite. That was 335 plus 171 angstroms. This is 171 plus 304 angstroms. Probably the house favorite composite, although there are so many great composites that you can create yourself at helioviewer.org. Go mess with it. Create your own videos if you like. Thanks for leaving a comment, TinMan1057, and good morning to you as well. And I just realized I've forgotten to obtain my coffee today. I was so excited about making today's video. I'll have to get that before the premiere. Next, and thanks to everybody who views our live premieres, by the way, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. Currently at 130 solar flux units. That radio signal comes from the upper chromosphere and lower corona. And there's the 1 year graph of that from Solon.info. You can see how proportional indeed the sunspot number and the radio flux are. I'm seeing a downtick there in sunspot number. Maybe an uptick coming. Let's take a look at some more data here. Here's the forecast from NOAA, expecting some geomagnetic storm conditions on the 5th. I'm thinking some of that might come a little bit earlier there. Maybe late in the day on the 4th or early in the day on the 5th. We'll have to see what happens. And we have currently entered a period of geomagnetic unrest conditions, as you can see here, KP4 approximately. We'll get to it. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from space, the last 4 hours. And the space weather modeling framework showing some rapid variations there. And that could be a demonstration of the model because of the instrument switch. We'll show you the instrument switch here in the real-time solar wind data. In any case, here are your ground magnetic perturbations. Probably see a wild shift in that also, where it drops down and then comes back. Keep in mind the space weather modeling framework is a model. It is based on a lot of data points, and if one of the data points goes bad, well, you're going to see the model looking pretty funky. Actually, this one is looking more legit. That's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground for the past 4 hours. And of course, space weather can create power line, pipeline, and railway induction. That's Earth's geomagnetic field over the U.S. And keep in mind, these spikes come without warning. If you want to read about that, click on the Details tab. We'll slowly scroll there. If anybody wants to pause the video and read all about the empirical geoelectric field model, we'll put it all up. You won't even have to click. And let's continue on. KP index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. There is the KP. It's close to 4, 3.67. And we like the new planetary K index showing decimalized figures instead of just whole numbers. 3.67, pushing KP4. It's approximately geomagnetic unrest. And the rest of the data tends to agree. We've seen a small increase here in the magnetic field strength. But the main thing is the BZ. So when we see a strong negative BZ signal like we see here, we're at a BZ of like -9 at the moment. Subsiding a little bit there to -7. That is the vertical component of the magnetic field. Keep in mind that is measured at Lagrangian point 1, the location of the ACE and Discover. And this variation you see here is a change in instrument. So that's the ACE, and then it's switching back to the Discover. Current conditions are approximately 7.6 protons per cubic centimeter, 474 kilometers per second for the velocity. And let's move on. Some more magnetic data here for you. There are the GOES 16 and GOES 17 magnetometers. Again, I am expecting the coronal hole high-speed stream to show up a little bit earlier than NOAA is. We'll have to see what happens. Next, the top view ecliptic plane field plot. South Pole current sheet looking imminent here. Most of our solar activity is in the northern hemisphere at the moment. So perhaps by tomorrow, South Pole current sheet may be at Earth. You can see it here in red. This is the South Pole plasma. This is the North Pole plasma. And most of the north solar polar field here just rotating off the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk there to the west. Next, our line of sight plot. This shows the solar B field in blue, north solar polar field in green, south solar polar field in red, as we observe the evolution of solar cycle 25. Here's our line of sight coronal hole plot. We've got some, at the moment, we've got north and south pole oriented coronal holes facing the Earth. So you'll see down here in the south, these coronal holes, these are actually north pole oriented. Up here, these are south pole oriented. Let's go back to the Gong 2 data. There you can see these south pole oriented coronal holes rotating in the northeast. Not very visible yet here on the 211 angstroms SDO wavelength. That's the last 24 hours. And let's move to sunspots. So there's the current state of affairs. We've got a few sunspots at quite high latitudes, namely 3138 and 3137, an indication that we are nowhere near solar maximum. There's a long way to go. We've interestingly got these sunspots that are at a completely different latitude. We've been seeing this throughout the solar cycle. It's one of the unique features of solar cycle 25, sunspots at vastly varying latitudes. Let's take a look at some more imagery of sunspots. Here's the magnetogram plus 100, plus 94 angstroms. It looks like the main flaring has come from this group down here. We're going to show you some coronal mass ejections too, by the way, and the likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections, which is high. Here's just the magnetogram. Again, things fairly stable there for the most part. Here's the SDO continuum. These are all 24-hour videos, by the way. And here's SDO continuum plus 94 angstroms. Looks like a little conversation going on between these two umbrae. Check it out. A little bit of flaring going back and forth. And let us know if you're trying to figure out what the sun is saying via Morse code. Let us know in the comments what you figured out by connecting dots and dashes. Let's move to energetic particles and flaring. No spikes in the proton flux. No relativistic particles, in other words. A minor uptick here in the background X-ray profile. Approaching a C-class background X-ray profile there. It's a slow uptick here in the solar activity. So here's 131 angstroms all by itself. Remember, folks, when you're already an expert in something and you're not getting the results that you think you ought to get, return to fundamentals. It's a thing to do in sports. It's a thing to do in science. It's a thing to do at work, perhaps. Return to the fundamentals. This is just one wavelength here, 131 angstroms, one of the many species of ionized iron. It's extreme ultraviolet light from the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And we encourage our viewers to look up. If you look up, you might see Betelgeuse and Mars not too far apart in the sky. Betelgeuse, interestingly, is the largest single object visible to the naked eye. A huge red supergiant. If it were in our solar system, it would be somewhere around the size of Mars's orbit. In other words, you'd be inside of it. So two bright red objects visible there, Betelgeuse and Mars not too far apart. It's Orion's shoulder, and let's continue on to our solar system forecast. We've got both Mercury and Venus on the opposite side of the sun in their retrograde motions, which are causing people to, I'm not sure what's causing them to do, but something's going on. They're going backwards in relationships and other things because of retrograde motion or something like that, because of astrology, but because reasons. Let's forward this. Let's forecast this solar system. This is where heavenly bodies currently are. Let's move this ahead 1 week. Here's where things will be on the 10th. Don't worry. They'll return to a prograde motion, as they always do. And by the way, the planets are not going to kill you, although stupid people might. Let's take a look at some coronagraphs. George Mason University is a little bit lacking here, only 7 frames. So let's move on. I'm going to show the stereo A raw data as well as the LASCO C3 raw dog data. We did indeed see some coronal mass ejections. Expect more. Yes. Expect more coronal mass ejections in the coming days. There are not only a huge number of filaments, there are huge filaments. And if you're a new viewer, Earth would be off in this orientation from the perspective of stereo A. Let's take a look at some composite videos here. That's SDO 304 angstroms plus the SOHO LASCO C2 and C3. Those CMEs do not appear to be earthly directed. Those are on the far side of the sun. Let's zoom out a little bit. Great view there of Venus on the left and Mercury on the right. Again, those are not Earth-directed coronal mass ejections. And let's move to filaments. Our ground-based solar observatory at El Teide, Spain is great at viewing filaments. Are we going to call that one Filament Fauci? Let us know what you think. Let us know if you think that filament is going to destroy the economy. Hopefully that's not a forecast. That's not a forecast, folks. Anyway, lots of filaments. You can see all these dark absorption features here. The corona is very bumpy, and it's got a lot of plasma suspended in it by solar magnetic fields. That's what's going on with filaments. They're defying gravity. Yes, defying gravity. Continuing on to the GOES 16 SUVI. This is the last couple of hours, about 2.5 hours there from the GOES 16, 304 angstroms ionized helium. And before we get to bonus features, here is the last 24 in 171 angstroms, the house favorite wavelength. Possibly some more activity rising around the east, both in the southern and northern hemispheres. We'll be keeping an eye on it, and when I say eye on, well, the pun is intentional. It's time to chew bubblegum and do bonus features, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Satellite's community dashboard showing some charging hazards here over Mexico. Those are the surface charging variety caused by low-energy electrons. And there you have it. I don't know what else to say about that. Here come the rest of our bonus features. It's the GOES electron flux. The GOES 16 and GOES 17 measure the electron flux at the F layer of the ionosphere from their geosynchronous orbits. They're located at about 22,000 miles of altitude. There is the NOAA forecast for electron flux. I would expect this to be a little bit lower here when these coronal hole high-speed streams show up, or this coronal hole high-speed stream, I should say. It's going to be here late in the day on November 4th, I believe. And there is the relativistic electron graph from Solon.info to put that all in context. It's going to come down to like about here, by the way. And let's take a look at the F ionosphere layer's vibrational frequency and anomalygram. That's about 300 kilometers of altitude there, the F layer of the ionosphere. And if you're not used to looking at that, don't worry. We'll show the anomalygram. There's the anomalygram. That's anomaly from the 30-day median. Interestingly enough, this actually shows you slightly higher resolution because it's breaking down the anomaly there to tenths of a megahertz, which would be hundreds of thousands of vibrations per second. Things are actually looking a little bit more normalized here for the past day. So less anomalies showing up. There's the latest image, 10:15 universal time, ionogram, 10:15 universal time, anomalygram. We'll also show the total electron content for North America. The worldwide total electron content view is, well, it's kerfuffled. It's jacked up. It's verklempt. And, yeah. So here's the GPS. The likelihood of GPS errors over the U.S. That's the total electron content. From about 12,500 miles of altitude down to the ground level. That's the actual electron count. Here is the standard deviation. And here is the anomaly. So there are some high electron anomalies happening there. Could tell us something about forecasting. We won't worry about it at the moment. It's the daily space weather. All right, and there's your latest magnetogram and latest intensitygram. Things have been fairly stable here. Do we have a new group rising? New sunspot just showing up there. So check it out. Also, this group here is going to need a name. That's 3139, I believe, will be the name of that. This will be 3140. Yowzers. Check it out. There are the fields. So, new large sunspot indeed, rising in the northeast. How about one more series of composite images before we move to our meteorology segment? There is the SDO, yesterday plus today, 171 angstroms plus the colorized magnetogram. And let's zoom in for your viewing pleasure. Number 1, I order you to refrain from taking a number 2 in your pants. Although having a bunker is good, it's a great vacation spot, you're probably not going to need one because the sun is not going to kill you. All right, let's pause for station identification. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, a station on which we do our part to make Earth not suck again. And let's take a look at some meteorology. So here we are looking at the planet, which is, by the way, in an ice age. If you weren't aware, the Antarctic ice sheet, it formed about 34 million years ago when the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today. That's the Arctic ice sheet. I'm talking about this one. This ice sheet formed about 34 million years ago when the Earth was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today. So if you're worried about the Antarctic ice sheet melting, I find it a little bit unlikely. Do you find it interesting that the south pole of the Earth is a huge, high landmass? It's the highest average altitude for any continent in the world, whereas the north polar region is a huge divot. It's an ocean. We've got an ocean up here, and we've got the highest average altitude landmass in the world down here. Do you find that interesting? Does that tell us something about the planet's formation, perhaps? Anyway, we're looking at sea surface temperatures here, and oh my God, look at the Arctic and southern oceans are cold, while the equatorial portions of the oceans are warm, except for, of course, the large portion of the East Central Pacific. Portions of the West Central Pacific are hot. Oh my God. Oh dear God. Sea surface temperatures. They don't tell us much about the climate because, well, the oceans are deep, and if we don't know the temperature of the oceans at 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 3,000 meters, well, it's not telling us too much about Earth's thermodynamics, is it? Since water has a very high latency of heat, and the air has a tiny, tiny latency of heat. That's why your temperature is able to swing massive amounts, 100 degrees in a day sometimes. That's 100 degrees Fahrenheit, we're hoping. Anyway, let's move on to our meteorology. I'm done ranting about ocean temperatures. There are the surface winds of the eastern world. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. Once again, congratulations on realizing the planet exists. The channel exists. Congratulations on realizing that the planet is croissant-shaped. Yes, it's croissant-shaped, folks. Did you think I was kidding? I'm not kidding, folks. The planet is actually croissant-shaped. You see? You see what I'm talking about? There's Earth's magnetic moment. Looks a little bit croissant-shaped to me, wouldn't you say? All right, let's get back to meteorology. Those are the jet streams of the Western world, the Americas. Croissant Earth. There are the surface winds, and there's some heavy winds in the northern Atlantic Ocean there, south of Greenland, southeast of Newfoundland, and to the west of the Azores. Here are the surface winds of the central world, and here are the jet streams of the central world. Let's move on. We don't want the video to be too long. But let's briefly talk about snow. Yes, snow. There's been some falling. Let's see where it lies in terms of averages. So as far as snow extent, it's right in the middle of the 1998 through 2011 average. As far as snow water equivalent, it's well over 1 standard deviation above normal for the 1998 to 2011 average. And as far as snow mass balance, it's all the way at the top of the range there, just over 1 standard deviation above the 1982 to 2012 average, which needs to be fixed, by the way, because we need the 1982 through 2021 average. But in any case, that's where it lies with respect to 82 through 2012. There's the snow extent by Rutgers. There is the snow map. Colorado, about 1/3 covered in snow. And it's only the beginning of November. Continuing on to our shortwave radiation map, you can see the day-night terminator there as the sun rises over the Atlantic Ocean. These are the clouds and fog of the Western world. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. We've got viewers in South America. We've got viewers in North America. We've got viewers in Europe. We've got viewers in Oceania. Let us know where you're viewing from if you've actually found the channel and you're viewing from someplace interesting, or even if you're from someplace uninteresting. Let us know in the comments. Tell us where you're located. Perhaps we'll give you a local weather forecast. Speaking of forecasts, here's our weather.gov map, and we've got massive amounts of snow here forecasted for the western U.S. Those are all winter weather advisories, those purple areas. Wind advisories there in Montana. Some hard freeze warnings in some places. If your county's lit, click your county. Here's the key to show you what some of those things mean. Weather.gov. Again, click your county if it's lit. Get your local weather warnings. And let's take a look at a forecast. So these were not available when we did show prep, but now they are. So let's take a look at the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation model. Yowzers, some heavy storms here. Will be in the central U.S. Heavy metal weather. Will you go away? Go away, you son of a All right, there we go. Heavy metal weather here showing up in the central U.S. Just west of the Mississippi Valley, also some heavy metal weather around Washington. Yowzers. Some extreme precipitation expected there. Check it out. Dag. In this system, the model has shown it a little bit more widespread and a little bit less concentrated. Some serious weather patterns there showing up in the next 72 hours. Again, that's a GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast from Tropical Tidbits. And let's take a look at the total accumulated snow depth change forecast. Create a model for that as well. This is the 72-hour positive snow depth change forecast. go away, and you, clear off. There you go. Dag. 2 feet of snow forecasted there in certain areas like Idaho, Washington, Colorado. Wow. No matter how much hot air comes out of the state of Colorado, it's going to be rather heavily blanketed in the white stuff. Also, New Mexico getting quite a bit of snow there. Some places pushing a foot. Arizona will see a bunch of snow, including the eastern portion of the state. Again, that's your GFS 72-hour positive snow depth change forecast in inches. And let's continue on. Here's a European model. There's a 3-day forecast on the Euro model. No huge differences there, and when the models align, well, you can expect them to be right. That's why we show 72-hour forecasts. We like to be right, although we like to be wrong too, because it tends to lead to learning. Yes, learning. When we're wrong, we just admit it and get ahead of it. We don't try to gaslight people and make fools of ourselves on the internet. That's a fail. If you're ossified in your beliefs, you're not doing science. So quite a bit of lightning here over the past about 10 hours, including some heavy lightning storms here east of Bermuda. And let's go to a real-time lightning map here to see if there are any terrestrial strikes. In the U.S., it's lightningmaps.org, powered by blitzoltung.org. Yes. What do we have here? One errant strike near the Colorado-Utah border. Must be a directed energy weapon. Oh, no, I'm so scared and spooked. Oh, it's probably a CIA satellite. It's a CIA hit, folks. Oh, my God. Dear God. Anyway, that's your real-time lightning map. We got a pretty heavy thunderstorm there in the Atlantic Ocean. Continuing on, here's your U.S. Doppler radar. Still precipitating in Alaska. We're going to focus on the lower 48. There you have it. It's too dark to see clouds and fog with the visible satellite, so here's the 3.9 nanometer radiation infrared satellite. One of the many in the NASA GOES interactive weather satellite suite. And look over here, folks. What do I see? What do I see here? Do you see what I see? Curvature. Yes, curvature. By the way, we should do a video just about the BitChute comments. A lot of truly idiotic comments on BitChute. Of course, we don't censor anybody or press mute or anything like that. We just let people make fools of themselves because, really, the answer to bad speech is just additional speech. We don't censor anybody. We are essentially free speech purists on the channel. So we feel sorry for you if you're making a fool of yourself on our BitChute comments. By all means, keep them coming. They do add to the hilarity of our mornings. So thanks for leaving comments. Maybe one day you'll realize that the Earth is actually croissant-shaped. So here's your recap. That was water vapor. Here's the Doppler radar, ground-based systems that show vertical motion of water droplets. Here's a space-based system that shows 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation from the GOES satellite. And there is the water vapor map. Clear skies over South Carolina are likely, with all that dry, massive air overhead. Once again, thanks for tuning in. The likelihood of coronal mass ejection is very high. The likelihood of a coronal hole wind stream is imminent. A coronal hole wind stream is imminent. I guess likelihood. Can likelihood be imminent? I'll tell you what else is imminent. Accountability. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather, and may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.